welcome again. This is Faiz Rahman and you're watching Cafe DC. Our guest today is a young Pakistani American author, an accomplished diplomat, a researcher who has done very well, not just in his own field of diplomacy, but also has written a few books, actually two very successful books, and those books are here. But before we get into the books, we'll just talk to Haroon Khan. Actually, his full name is Haroonullah Khan, and Haroon is with us here today. Welcome, Haroon. A pleasure to have you here on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's just get into the nitty-gritty of your background. You were born here to Pakistani parents, and then you also had a chance to go back to Pakistan in your own private capacity, but also serve as a diplomat. How was it like?
I had an incredible time. It was absolutely fascinating to me. You know, I grew up in small town America, and I grew up in a small rural community in Washington State, and which I loved. I loved sort of growing up, you know, sort of wheat fields and sagebrush, we used to joke. And I had this unique experience. My parents were from South Asia. My parents were Pakistani, had immigrated. My father had gone to England to do his PhD on a Commonwealth scholarship, and then they had moved here. He was a nuclear engineer, someone that focused on environmental cleanup. And so I ended up moving to this small town.
What was the name of the town?
It's near Hanford, Washington. So it's sort of unique in the sense that Hanford, Washington and Los Alamos, New Mexico are the two places where they process plutonium for the
I
first
hope our
nuclear
viewers
bomb.
don't confuse with Washington State with the city of Washington, which
That's
is
right.
the capital, and Washington State a few thousand miles away
That's right. It's
from
about
this
far
place
away
that
as you
you're
can get.
talking.
You can think about it. You can think about the distance
The
between
West Coast
Peshawar and
mostly.
Karachi, and you're about halfway. And so I grew up in this small town near Seattle, and you know, but it offered me an opportunity as a Pakistani American to explain Pakistan to people that I grew up with on my street. Because to be honest, Faiz, when people would see things on TV, they come and ask me, what's going on in Pakistan? Explain to us what we see on TV on these headlines. They might see people burning flags, they might see violence. And I wanted to tell them about the real Pakistan. And that's what inspired me to write these books, to go beyond the headlines, to humanize Pakistan.
Right, exactly. I mean, see what we see here about Pakistan on these little screens and what they see about America is not necessarily closer to the reality. I mean, both of these worlds are sometimes apart in perceptions and in reality.
Right.
So, which is an unfortunate fact of this, even though it's a smaller world, a global village, but still the perceptions are far, far apart. Let's discuss your book, The Bargain from the Bazaar. It's quite successful, and I hope we can take a closer shot to it, of it actually. It's been praised, critiqued by so many prominent people, including Raza Aslan, who himself is a very prominent Muslim scholar, an American Muslim scholar, Eboo Patel, Sajjad Karim, Peter Bergen, you know, also a very famous scholar and very well known in Pakistan. What prompted you to write this book about a family based in Lahore, a Pakistani family? What was the motivation?
That's a great question. I'm absolutely honored, you know, this was sort of a labor of love, and it was a project I worked on for many years. It's a family I met in 2004. And what inspired me to write this was I wanted to present to people that I grew up with, I wanted to explain to them about everyday Pakistanis. I wanted them to know about how everyday Pakistanis cope with what's going on around them. These families that day by day work hard to provide a better future for their kids. And I wanted to show that side of Pakistan to people here in North America, to people around the world. And so, yes, people see the violence and people see a lot of things on TV, but I wanted to humanize, I wanted to bring that dinner table conversation to life. And so that people could relate with a family. And this family is remarkable. It's Awais, the father, was a POW in the 1971 war. He walked 1,000 miles back to Pakistan. You know, the mother, this incredibly strong woman, Shez, who works as a nurse in Lahore and literally doing triage day and night. And then they have 3 sons. And each of their 3 sons go off on a different path in terms of different career paths, getting in with the wrong group of friends, going into either working or not working. And so it was all in this one family that to me presented sort of a microcosm of Pakistan. the challenges, as well as the hopes and all the dreams of the nation, of the young nation. And so it was for me, and I learned a lot because ultimately I believe that The Bargain from the Bazaar is a story of resilience and triumph and justice.
And then your newest book is Vying for Allah's Vote. Again, a little smaller, but again, very important book. It's been talked about here in the media, on American media. Harun, most of the times I see that those who write books, especially serving diplomats, they either write about some foreign issues or some policy matters. You're a serving diplomat, and of course, your heritage is Pakistani. But these books are kind of quite a shift from a usual pattern for a diplomat, that rather than just focusing or shining lights on your field of your field and your way of serving the United States government, what is it that you chose to write books on something totally? I understand the motivation, but why did you choose just Pakistan so deeply?
Right.
And Pakistan was just like one area of service for you, right? I mean, it's not like your entire career.
That's right.
It's your love, I know.
That's right.
But
that's a great question, Faiz. I mean, I think a couple of things. One was, this book was part of my doctoral work. I did my doctoral work in Pakistan, did most of my research there. And what I wanted to explain was, in Pakistan, there's this interesting mix that people see between politics and religion. And I wanted to, I think oftentimes Islamic parties, confessional parties, like the Jamaat Islami, the Jamiat Ulama Islam, they're poorly understood. And I feel that they're some of the most poorly understood phenomena of understanding Pakistan. And what I wanted to explain to people was that if you want to understand how decisions are made between the civil and military apparatus, you need to understand these organizations because they're influential and they have a tremendous amount of power in terms of street power and setting the debate. And not just, I think, for Pakistan, but Pakistan has a lot of lessons for the Arab Spring, for the rest of the world, because people forget that Pakistan has the oldest Islamic parties in the world. The Muslim League was started in 1906. You have over 100 years of history of
very good point.
Muslim politics. And, we talk about what's going on in the Arab Spring with the Muslim Brotherhood, or what's going on with Hezbollah, or what's going on in Syria. Well, if you want to understand these types of organizations, you should look to South Asia. And I feel that Pakistan has a lot of lessons because you see how these parties have competed. You see how they have adapted. You see how they reach out to potential followers. And so that to me was fascinating. And I think it presents an interesting case study for Turkey, for Malaysia, for many other countries that's oftentimes ignored.
Very good. Harun, we have to take a small break here. And when we come back, we'll talk to you about, of course, Pakistan is immensely diverse country. It's not just Karachi, Lahore, or Islamabad, these big cities. I mean, if you go across the country, it's hugely, hugely diverse and with different tastes and different manifestations of cultures, language, music, and everything. So please just stay with us. Once we come back, we're going to touch upon these topics with our guest today, Harun Khan. Welcome back. Okay, Harun, so we were talking about the diversity of Pakistan and the Pakistani society. And one thing that I understand that the West does not understand, the religiosity of the Pakistani society. I have seen liberals being very religious, and I have seen religious people being very liberal. I mean, you can't put people in those two boxes as we do here in the West. And once actually a very famous writer, I met her and I asked her, what's your definition of a liberal? And she said, somebody who does not kill his daughters and let them go to schools. I said, well, there are very prominent, very conservative people who don't kill their daughters, and their daughters are very well educated, highly educated people in the society. So through your work in Pakistan, why there is such a gap between in the understanding of these two societies? We touched upon it a little bit, in terms of perceptions, but do you think the West understands Pakistan as much as they should?
That's a great question, Faiz. I mean, part of my effort and the people that I worked with and that I met was this effort to try to better understand Pakistan, because it is nuanced, it's complex, has a rich history, and I think that it's so important to understand, and part of what inspired me to write these books was to understand everyday Pakistanis, not just the elite that oftentimes you may engage with, but the people that, 2/3 of Pakistan living under $2 a day, those people that are struggling day to day, those people that are facing the blackouts, load shedding. I lived in Pakistan in a small village. I know what load shedding is. I lived in Momand in the northern areas for a little less than a year in Fatah. I know what it means to be living in tough circumstances in the mountains. And so I wanted to write something that was help us in our efforts to understand, because the better we understand Pakistan, the better they understand America, and we can build those people-to-people exchanges, because Pakistan and the US are too important to ignore. And one thing I learned is that what happens in Pakistan affects things in the US, and what happens in the US affects Pakistan. We live in too much of an interconnected and sort of interdependent world. And so building those bridges, I think, are key. I think back, you asked about religion. I think you're absolutely right. We, growing up here in the United States, we have a very different view of religion. Religion tends to be privatized. Religion is something that you do
exactly.
in your home.
The concept of separation
different.
of church and state is very well defined, and it has a long history, a background.
That's right.
But in Pakistani context,
That's right.
it's not totally applicable, in some people's opinions.
Yeah, and you find that faith and spirituality is woven through much of the fabric of society, and this is no matter whether you're a Muslim or the different sects of whether you're Sunni, whether you're Shia, you have Hindus, you have Christians, but faith is so important to all of Pakistan, and people look to poetry, for example. Muhammad Iqbal, our great poet philosopher who inspired millions all around the world, he talked about khudi. He talked about self-realization and understanding yourself, and how that's an integral part of faith. I think of this couplet that Allama Iqbal oftentimes would say, the translation in English is
Urdu.
You
gotta do it in Urdu.
I'll do the Urdu, but then I may lose
Okay, you
a few
give me the
folks.
translation,
I'll
maybe I
give you the
can do it.
translation, and then I'll do the Urdu for you. But he says, don't get frightened by those furious, violent winds, O eagle. They only blow to make you fly higher. And I think that to us
ये तो चलती है तुझे उड़ा, तुंदी है बादिए मुखालिफ से ना घबराए औकाब, ये तो चलती है तुझे ऊंचा उड़ाने के लिए. Yeah, good. So you speak a little bit Urdu?
I can speak Urdu. I speak Urdu.
But not this share?
This share, I know most of it. I can do it in Urdu for you. I know I speak some Punjabi. I picked up a little Pashto living in the northern areas.
Okay.
But I think this is part of the effort. I mean,
You have read Bulleh Shah?
I've read Bulleh Shah, read Faiz.
Anything you want to quote from him?
I think of Bulleh Shah actually as somebody that encapsulated faith across religions. He was somebody that talked about spirituality that was relevant regardless of your religion. He talked about sort of the human spirit. He talked about how we are interconnected and how we're all in this together. And so, Bulleh Shah inspired so many people to think outside of, religion sometimes creates artificial categories. And a place like Pakistan, where you see a lot of political entrepreneurs use religion to mobilize, and you see sometimes some of this political violence that comes out of it that's unfortunate. I've lost many close friends in Pakistan, to some of these suicide bombings, to some of this violence. And, for me, it pains me because Pakistan has lost the most civilians, over 55,000 people on the war on terror. And so, it's so important, I think, for this young generation, over 100 million Pakistanis under the age of 30. They are looking for a better future. And they can go in one direction, or they could go in a very different direction. And I meet so many of these inspiring young people across the board, and that's what keeps me hopeful and optimistic about Pakistan's future.
Well, Harun, pleasure to have you here on Cafe DC. Great talk. Hope your
Thank you so
books do even well, even more. They sell more.
Thank you so much.
And more people read this very insightful, basically very insightful work, not just about Pakistan, but it basically it explains a lot of history of India before partition, what happened, and how this Muslim identity came about as a result of some political movements. Hope again we can have you here on the show one more time.
Thank you so much. I used to be a big fan of your show, watching it in Pakistan.
Thank you very
the last
much.
few years. It's quite an honor.
Thanks.
Coming up after the break.
It's the kind of things that Open is linked with. These are the kind of things that show the best face of America to Pakistan, separate from the government-to-government relationship. And that's the kind of diplomacy I'd love to see in the 21st century.
Welcome back. So you watched our interview with Harunullah Khan about his book and his views about Pakistani society and also his work there. Now we'll watch a package, a report by one of our colleagues, Raza Naqvi, who was in Northern California to attend a conference organized by a major Pakistani American organization. It's called OPEN, the Organization of Pakistani Professionals in North America. It will basically outline the importance and the work that this organization has been doing for not just for the Pakistani American community, but also for the larger American society. Let's take a look.
So OPEN stands for Organization of Pakistani Entrepreneurs. We are at this point the largest organization for Pakistani origin folks in the world, focused on entrepreneurship and leadership.
They're putting a lot of emphasis on the youth and helping youth, guiding youth, developing entrepreneurship spirit in youth, and helping youth be job creators rather than job seekers. I think that's the tremendous thing, that's a tremendous contribution.
So we started in 1998 with about a handful of us, 5 or 6 of us, and we've grown to about 5,000 entrepreneurs and leaders across 11 chapters in the world, including 3 in Pakistan. So we've actually got chapters in Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad.
Attending a forum like this where you get to network with so many people in so many different fields, it's really incredible because it sort of removes you from your everyday. And I've really met so many different people who I would normally never get to because, you get set in your ways, and this sort of gives you an opportunity to take a step back and really connect with people on a level that you don't get to.
I think the networking opportunities here are great because there are a lot of different types of, people coming from every, industry sector, whether it's retail or it's law or it's finance, and there's an avenue for a person who is just starting out to someone who has been working in, as a professional for like many years, and so I would say that the most value I've gotten is the networking opportunities.
Let me put what networking helps you achieve in terms of sort of the 4 C's of Open. So the 4 C's of Open that we help our members with, one is contacts, and that's really what networking is, right? Introducing our members to people such as these amazing speakers who they wouldn't otherwise meet. The second one is customers. We've helped a lot of our members introduce among themselves or others who may then buy their services, right? Especially for startups, that's important. So career is a very important C, which is a lot of our members are looking for guidance, whether it's jobs, whether it's changing careers or career advice. We do a lot of that. And then the last one is capital. So there's a very strong angel community within the network, within Open, that invests in startups started by other parts of Open, right? So networking helps with all 4 of those C's.
On top of that, you can also come in not just for networking, you can also come in to give back to the community, which is a small segment, but I think we also somehow need to relate and give back to our own country, Pakistan, as well. I sort of see that as well. So there's a whole lot of startups that work from Pakistan and they bring business here in the US. So they have business in several locations. So you want to work with them as well. So that's pretty neat.
I mean, I think the biggest value in Open is that I mean, I guess as the name even implies, you know, it really opens your eyes to the different kinds of people different kinds of Pakistanis who are doing really interesting things around the world.
Look, I think that Pakistanis understand, those who've come here, we've been blessed. America's been made stronger by the Pakistanis who've come here and contributed to American life. I'd like that narrative to become clearer to Pakistanis who live in Pakistan, to realize that we welcome Pakistanis, that we love to have these people, these bright entrepreneurs who are in Silicon Valley, people in finance, people in high tech. This has made us stronger. And that by extension, America would like to see a strong Pakistan. We'd like to see Pakistan with the prosperity that we see among these people who've come here. Many Pakistanis are skeptical about that for whatever reason. They can look back to the experience of the last 10 or 15 years and say things have been tough in Pakistan, and many Pakistanis blame that on us. What I'd like them to do is to see that there are Pakistanis in America, they do well, and that American attitudes towards them and towards Pakistan can be positive.
You know, it took humans a very long time to fly, but once the first person was able to fly, flight has become a normal thing. So as our youth sees that, you know, people from our part of the world, our people can be successful and can be at the highest level, they can see themselves at levels higher than that also.
So I am doing a custom tailored professional clothing business for women. I'm bringing in essentially bespoke tailoring services for women in the US, and I've partnered with young emerging designers in Pakistan and tailoring houses that can essentially create the clothing. So it's been really, really great. I actually got my 3 orders in just one day, and that was extremely encouraging because I started this about 4 months ago. And right now, before my website has even formally launched, I think it's a huge validation to, you know, meet women in conferences and have them trust you to the point where they let you measure, you know, where they let you measure them, I guess, okay, and also place their orders. And so it's, I mean, I think it's been great. And I'm happy that it's happening with, you know, Pakistani Americans to begin with.
Well, the advice that I give most is basically to not be afraid. When you're doing something that's sort of out of the box, like you have to be fearless in your decisions, and you have to have like a sort of self-confidence because you will stumble, you will fall, you will face a lot of, you know, adversary. And the only way to overcome it is to make sure that you are capable of learning from your mistakes and just sort of going on from there.
So the biggest challenge is finding the right quality leaders to start chapters, because one of the things that we're very careful about is we don't want people who want to get involved for self-promotion, which can unfortunately be always a constant issue in the community, in the Desi community, frankly. So we're very careful about who we choose as leaders. We want to choose people who are primarily there to give back and who are interested in, you know, creating a larger impact and who want to create an impact globally through Open, right? So that's, we could have had twice as many chapters as we do right now, but because we've been so selective, that's one of our biggest challenges, is to maintain that quality.
What we need to do in general as Pakistanis is try to add value by either sponsoring it or somehow volunteering in it or somehow showing presence with our own efforts and somehow improve it. That's the only way we can improve it. So I think we can bring about, as long as we work together, I think, and we bring in more. So we brought our co-founder Manav Singh here, who runs the company pretty much. We need to all make an effort and bring in more people so we have better speakers, so we attract more Pakistani people, generate more funds, and we're able to do better things for our community.
If we think about the way Islamabad and Washington work together, fine, that's one avenue, that's one way of working. But for me, the cultural affinity of Americans and Pakistanis, the fact that they're so similar, the fact that they're so open and talented, people who are very warm and hospitable in both countries, I think that this is the way that the future of our relationship could really blossom, where people here, working in a place like Open or who are affiliated with Open, can have a tie with Pakistan that's really positive and really redefines away from government to government to society and society, or business to business. Because when I was in Pakistan, I found that what Pakistanis respected most about America was our business opportunity, our openness, our educational institutions, the kind of things that Open is linked with. These are the kind of things that show the best face of America to Pakistan, separate from the government to government relationship. And that's the kind of diplomacy I'd love to see in the 21st century.
Thanks for watching Cafe DC. I'm Faiz Rahman. Please don't forget to give your feedback through our Twitter account. Don't forget to go on our Facebook page. And also, don't forget to visit our website, urduvoa.com. Once again, Faiz Rahman with Cafe DC. See you next week.